Howdy everyone, Joe here. So, Christmas came a little bit early. My girlfriend, hearing my desperate pleas, or desperate cries I should say, as I've run out of 1 keg of beer, so I'm now down to 1 keg in the kegerator, gave me a Christmas present early. We got a beer kit, and it's actually from the Brewers Coop, which is part of the Two Brothers Brewing Company in Warrenville, Illinois. We got a Christmas ale. So we are going to brew this up today, so that way we will have some, the cake will be ready by Christmas. So, with this, it comes with all sorts of stuff. You know, I'm going to zoom in so you guys can actually see this as I take it out, and you can see how well these kits are put together. Okay, so with this kit here, of course it comes with their instructions. I'll be posting all this information in the more info section of the video, so just check that out down there. Then they give you, of course, the whole procedure. This was actually taped to the top of the bag, or top of the box, I should say, because these boxes are so jam-packed. I'm impressed with how they're able to do this. But so, we've got a pound of plain light malt extract. We've got an ounce of Tettnang hops. We've got our specialty grains all crushed up. Looks like this is Belgian CaraMunich crushed, and that's it, actually. We've got our brewer's yeast. We've got priming sugar, which I won't use because I keg it, but I may just go ahead and throw this into the wort. Why not? They got your bottle caps. Of course, your grain bag. A small packet of mixed spices. This thing smells amazing. I can tell that there is definitely cinnamon, ginger, and nutmeg in here. Just having cooked with those spices a lot, I can tell. But here's your spice packet, and then two of the 3.3 pounds of the Brewers Pure Malt Extract Pilsen Light, and that should do it. Yep, that is it. So, without further ado, let's get to brewing this bad boy. I'm ready. As you can see, I've already got the hose that I use in my tap here sanitizing, as well as my strainer. It's found it's a lot easier to just do that in the sink rather than trying to fit the hose into this the wallpaper trough. And you know, before we actually head to the stove, what we need to do is get this crushed grains into our muslin bag here. Go ahead and just pop this open. Just that way it's easier to grab in a bit. Whoa. Okay. Without further ado. Smells so good. Okay, what I'll do is I will typically take the muslin bag, pull it over the top, just flip the whole thing. Voila. Tie a knot on the top of this. And now we'll head to the stove, because the Brewers Co-op kit here says to add 2.5 gallons of cold water to your pot. Then you take the bag of grain, pour it into the muslin bag, tie the bag, and then place it in the pot. So as the water's heating up, the grains are already in there. So now let's head over to the stove. Okay, we've got our pot with 2.5 gallons of water. Our grain bag, in it goes. And we'll turn this bad boy on. Take my spoon and sort of submerge it, push some of the air out. Get everything moistened. And now we just wait until it heats up. Their instructions say once water is boiling, remove from heat and add all of the malt extracts. So we're just going to wait for this to get hot. Okay, now while the grains and the water get to a boil, I'm going to go ahead and plug up my sink here. This is running with nice hot water. We're going to get these two 3.3 pound cylinders of the liquid malt extract into the hot water to kind of soften them up. Now you can see I've taken the label off, but there is an interior foil packet. I'm going to go ahead and leave that one still in place just to make sure it stays nice and clean, you know, none of the water gets in there. Because these aren't watertight cylinders without that seal. So we'll just fill this up, let them get nice and squishy, and then we will get them added to our worts. That's the current temperature. It says to bring this, you know, right before boiling, pull the grains out, but I'm probably going to pull them at about 170. We don't need the astringency of the hulls. We're sitting at 112. A little ways to go. We are sitting at about 170 degrees, maybe a little bit more, because I needed to power up the camera. So it is time to remove the grain bag. That's nice and toasty. I'm going to take it out a little bit early just because, like I said, I want to make sure I don't hit the astringency in those grain hulls with our specialty grains. And we'll pretty much just let that drain off there. And then once the whole batch comes to a boil, we'll get those malt extracts added. We're going to be adding the dry malt first, and then we'll be adding the 2 cylinders of the liquid malt extract. And just in case this is your first brewing video you're watching, you want to make sure when you're doing an extract kit like this that you remove your brew kettle from the hot burner. The reason you want to do that is because you want to get it off that heat entirely, because liquid malt extract will sink right to the bottom and you'll scorch it, so you're going to wind up with a burnt tasting beer, and you don't want that, especially if you're buying nice malt extracts. Don't want to waste them. So okay, this just reached a boil, so now it's time to add our first, which will be our dry malt extract. Just put this in a little bit by a little bit because it does have a tendency to clump. And as you can see, it's binding up because of the steam. Nothing wrong with that. It's almost like a powdered malt beer sugar. So it's perfect. Much in there as you can. That's not too bad. I can live with that. So we'll give this a stir here. And we will get to adding our first of the liquid malt extracts. So here we go. Again, like I said, you do this in this order, or not in this order, but you add everything off the burner because the burner will continue to heat the bottom, and this liquid sinks right to the bottom. The liquid malt, it's heavy. It's much more dense than water. So even with the dry malt extract added, you don't want to scorch this stuff. So. And we'll give that a rinse here in just a second with some nice hot water. But before this gets cold, we're going to add the second one. There you go. See, there's still lots in there, so I'm going to add some hot water to that and get it mixed in. But I'm going to do that while this is coming back to a boil. So we're going to continue stirring this, get it nice and mixed up, and keep scraping the bottom. You know, make sure that you get all of that liquid malt extract off the bottom before you start boiling. Okay, I think this is mixed up well enough, so we are going to take our oven mitts here, slide this back over, and get it back to a boil. So as you can hear, it is heating back up in there. So we're going to put in, I basically took these two containers, put some hot water in, poured them back and forth until I got pretty clean. You can see along the edge there, it's nice and clean. So we're just going to give it another final spin here. Get that added. That's what you're looking for, a nice clean container. And because it's a plastic container, I did not pour boiling water in there, just very, very, very warm water. So now what we're going to do, we are going to, I'm going to keep mixing this up a little bit just to make sure that nothing settles down to the bottom. And all the while it is on high, so we are going to hopefully have a boil here shortly, which means we will let it boil. The instructions on this recipe call for it to boil for about 10 minutes, and then you'll add the hops. With about, they said, so we'll boil it for an hour. Yeah, they recommend a boil of 75 minutes. Well, this particular recipe does. So boil 75 minutes. With 60 minutes left, you add the hops, and then with, let's see, with 10 minutes left is when we will add our spices. So we are just going to wait for this to come to a boil, let it boil for 10, and then we will add our hops. So we'll see you then. Okay, the boil just started. As you can see, we do have some foam going on here. So again, I always will keep my handy dandy sprayer. I'm betting that this recipe, they recommended that you boil it for 10 minutes before adding the hops, so that way you get past this hop break. Because that's the thing, you're not going to want to just throw your hops right in as soon as it starts to boil, or else you will have a boil over. You see how much it's expanding? So just make sure that you're very, very careful. Be able to get it off the heat quickly if you need. Always have your oven mitts, your spitzer bottle ready. I've seen a couple other home brewers who are just like, stir like crazy. That's all you gotta do, just stir like mad. But I found the spritzer bottle works a lot better. So we've made it past the hot break. We're at 60 minutes, so now we are going to add an ounce of Tettnang hops. So here we go. In they are. Armed with my spritzer just in case. Smelling good. We're getting a little extra foam. You can see it along right in there. It's not staying though, so that's fine with me. So now we're going to let those hops boil for an hour, but at, what was it? With 10 minutes left to go, we are going to add the spice packet. So we're going to see you all in about 50 minutes. We've got 10 minutes to go, so now it's time to add our spice packet. This is what makes it Christmas. So we'll continue boiling for 10. That smells really good. And then we need to get the batch cooled down. So, see you in 10. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There we are. Okay, so now we are going to kill the heat on this. We are going to take our lid, set it on there like so. And now I'm going to prepare an ice bath for this bad boy. I'll go ahead and actually pull it off the heat as well, just to help. So let's get that ice bath made. And before I actually do the ice bath, what I'll do is I'll take my pot of wort, I'll set it in the sink, and then what I'll do is I'll take cold water and run cold along the outside. Now you're going to see it steams up really, really fast. Because essentially what we're going to do here is we're going to cool it with just regular water. Then once it cools down from the boiling point, it will the ice bath will be a lot more effective at chilling it. This is especially good if you don't have a ton of ice at your disposal, like me. I mean, I just got what's in my freezer. So I'll hit it with water here for just a few. Then what I'll do is I'll take my pot holders, we'll move it out. We'll take our sink plug, jam that. Oh, this one fits so strange. Get some cold going in there again. Put this back in here. And just fill it up with cold. I found it's good. Just keep the water moving. And you throw it on one side, it'll kind of spiral around, or you can blast it under the bottom. So essentially, rather than dunking it right into an ice bath, I do it in a cold water bath. I'll usually do this a couple times. And what that'll do is that'll let your ice be a lot more effective. Because you're going to notice that this water is going to get hot really, really fast. So I'll just let that set. I'm going to do this probably 2 or 3 times, and then we'll prep the actual ice bath for the cooling wort. Okay, so we've got this cooled down now to, I think it was about at 100 degrees, so now we're going to do some more. Toss some ice in there. Just that easy. Plug is already in, obviously. Just going to take some of this up. Set our brew right in there. And fill her up. And be careful because it's going to slide around a bit. Depending on where the ice goes. Alrighty. Now I'll just sit and wait for it to cool down completely. I'll probably take it with my sanitized spoon and give it a stir a couple times just to kind of help cool it down. But with this small amount of wort, you're not really going to have to worry about it taking an incredibly long time to cool down. I did only probably four or five of the water exchanges, and we had already taken the temperature down by half. So this ice is going to take it well below where it needs to be. We are shooting the recipe here recommended that you cool it down to 80 degrees or less, and I guarantee you we're going to be lower than that. So what I'm doing is I'm planning on cooling this down to probably about 60 or so, and then I'm going to use top-off water sitting at about 65 if we can do that. That'll give me a nice cool range in which to pitch the yeast, so we're not going to have to worry about creating off flavors right off the bat. And I know for Muntons that is something, you can get clovey flavors if you pitch it too hot. So while we're waiting for this to cool down, we'll get our yeast ready. The back of the packet recommends dissolving the yeast in a third cup of cooled boiled water, leave 15 minutes without stirring, then mix well to suspend all the yeast, add immediately to your brew. Whereas the recipe calls for adding it to a pint of 105 degree water. I don't agree with that one. So I'm going for a cooler water. I mean, this is probably sitting at about 80-ish. And I'm going with a lot less water. This is just over a third cup, almost a half cup. I think a pint is too much, and then the temperature on that one is it's way too high for my tastes. Okay. I like to take just a bit of plastic, mix it on there. Try to break the surface tension of the water just a bit to try to get it dissolving. Now we'll let that sit while our wort cools. Okay, our brew's actually sitting at 68 degrees. 69 degrees. Pretty good, spot on. I'm digging it. So now what we're going to do, we are going to pull this out, drain out our water, dry off our hand. Now, while everything was getting ready and prepping, I went ahead and sanitized the fermenter here, lid included, so I'm trying to be careful with that, as well as the entire strainer. Let's get that out of the way there. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to pour this into our fermenter and then get some water going. Actually, like I said, I'm going to be shooting for about the same temperature. So we'll just get the warm water going. Okay, here we go. Now I pour from pretty high up, so that way the wort gets aerated. There we are. Get my thermometer and the water here, so we can start taking a measurement of that while we get the rest of this strained. You can see all the hop settlement and everything. Okay, let's see where our water's at. Too high, we're going to add, it's mostly cold water. I know I'm probably going to get some hate mail for using warm water, but I'm trying to just shoot for about the same temperature. About 70. Okay, it's sitting at 70. That's exactly what we want. So I'm going to return this to the sanitizer. This is pretty much done. And now, just a matter of getting it into the bucket. Try to clean up the edges there. And we're going to be filling this up to the 5-gallon mark, so up to here. There we go! Perfect. So now we'll take our sanitized spoon, give it a mix. Okay, I've got my sanitized temperature probe here, and we're sitting at 68 degrees, 69. It's bouncing between 68 and 69. Delightful. So we're going to go ahead and take a hydrometer reading. Got our sanitized hydrometer and beer thief. You just put it in there. It'll draw a sample. And give it a spin. We're sitting at 1.054, which is good. It's right in the parameters of the recipe. Yeah. So we'll just return that sample. They say to not return it, but if you've got a completely sanitized equipment, there's no need to waste it. Not that ultimately that'll make that big of a difference, but it's a quarter of a beer. It counts. Okay. So now we are going to take our yeast, which we've got still covered here, and a sanitized spoon. It's been sitting in the sanitizer. Give it a good stir. We're going to scrape off the bits that were on the side there. Perfect. Knock that off in the work. Might as well. Now, bon voyage. Pull up just a bit into it. Again, this whole thing was sanitized and it's been wrapped in plastic, so I'm not worried about it. Just collect all that yeast in there. And there we go. Set that over there for rinsing. Just do one more check on our temperature. Yeah, it's sitting at 69 degrees actually, which will be quite perfect. You don't want the start of your fermentation to be too warm. That's when you're going to get the gross flavors. So start it out nice and cool, and you can let it get warmer after a couple days. But yeah, it's sitting rock solid at 69, so we are golden. Now what we're going to do, take our sanitized lid. Always make sure you know where this is. So I'm going to set it right there. I always try to line it, the port here up with my thermometer. So that way I can put them both on the same side of the fermentation chamber. Keep an eye on both. And we'll take sanitized airlock, sanitized inner airlock component. Fill it up to the line with some star sand solution. And throw the lid on. Click. And voila, there we go. Now what I'm going to do, we're going to take this, put it in the fermentation chamber I've made. You guys have seen that in some of my other videos. And here in hopefully about 24 hours or so, we're going to have some fermentation going on. If not, we will readdress the status of the yeast. I always have extra yeast in my fridge, so if there are any problems, we can pitch something then. But Munton's is a very good brand, so I trust it. So cheers everyone, thanks for watching. We're gonna see you soon.